You're about to learn something that most people only realize after years of chasing the wrong solutions. And for some of you, it might even feel uncomfortable at first because it challenges what you've been told your whole life. But here's the truth, and I need you to really hear this. Your relationship with sugar isn't just about willpower. It's about chemistry, timing, and a few simple decisions you make in the moments that matter most. What if I told you that you could eat something sweet and not feel that familiar heavy fog descending an hour later? That you could actually help your body process it more efficiently, not by avoiding it altogether, but by understanding how your metabolism really works. Because the science here is clearer than it's ever been, and what it reveals might change the way you look at every meal from now on. Think about the last time you had a piece of cake at a birthday party, or a bowl of ice cream on a warm evening. You enjoyed it in the moment, but then maybe 30 or 40 minutes later, something shifted. Your energy dipped. Your focus blurred. That heavy feeling settled into your limbs, and you found yourself searching for the nearest couch. Most people chalk this up to age or just being tired. But what's actually happening inside your body is far more fascinating and far more within your control than you might imagine. This isn't about guilt or restriction. It's about giving your body the tools it naturally needs to handle what you put into it. Because here's what the research shows, and I want you to really sit with this. Your muscles have this remarkable ability that has nothing to do with insulin. It's like a hidden door that opens simply when you move. And for people with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, this door still works perfectly well. That's not just interesting. That's the foundation of everything we're about to explore. So I want to paint a picture for you. Imagine a woman named Margaret, who's in her late 60s. She retired a few years ago, spends her time gardening and visiting her grandchildren. A while back, her doctor told her that her numbers were creeping up. Not quite diabetic, but dangerously close. She felt fine, mostly. A little tired in the afternoons, maybe a bit more stiffness in her joints than she remembered. Nothing that seemed urgent. But then one afternoon at a family gathering, there was cake. And like anyone would, she had a slice. And then another slice because it was just that good. About an hour later, she felt that familiar wall of exhaustion. She mentioned it to her daughter, who's a nurse, and her daughter said something that changed everything. She said, "Mom, that's not just getting older. That's your blood sugar." What Margaret didn't know was that every time she ate something sweet, that glucose was doing more than just giving her a quick burst of energy. It was actually binding to proteins in her bloodstream in a process scientists call glycation. And over time, those sticky, sugar-coated proteins turn into something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. That's not just clever naming. These compounds are directly linked to inflammation, stiffening of blood vessels, and damage to nerves and kidneys. The very complications we spend our later years trying so hard to avoid. But here's where it gets really interesting. When your blood sugar spikes, your body releases insulin to handle the flood. And insulin's message to your cells is simple. Store fat, don't burn it. So for about an hour after you eat something sweet, your body essentially locks the doors on your fat stores. That's why sugar can feel so counterproductive if you're trying to manage your weight. You're not failing at willpower, you're fighting your own hormones. Now, what if I told you that the first 60 minutes after a meal is the most critical window, and you have far more control in that hour than you might think? Because that's the truth. That 60-minute window is where you have the most leverage. And the first tool you have is the simplest and most powerful one you'll ever encounter. Here's something that might surprise you. Your muscles have a completely separate pathway for absorbing sugar that doesn't require insulin at all. It's like a back door. When you contract a muscle, even gently, that muscle pushes tiny transporters called GLUT4 to its surface, and they start soaking up glucose straight from your blood. This mechanism works in people with type 2 diabetes. It works in people with severe insulin resistance. It works in almost everyone. The irony is that when you feel that sugar crash coming on, your instinct is to sit down and rest. That's exactly the moment when a little movement would help you the most. You don't need to run a marathon. You don't need to hit the gym. A 10-minute walk after a meal is enough to significantly reduce the blood sugar spike. There's a study from researchers at the University of Messina that looked specifically at older adults at risk for glucose problems. They found that 3 short walks after meals controlled blood sugar over 24 hours better than 1 long walk did. The timing made all the difference. Margaret started doing this. Nothing dramatic, just a slow stroll around the block after dinner. Sometimes with her husband, sometimes alone with the evening air. She didn't expect much from it, but it was the first domino in a chain of changes that would quietly reshape her health. Here's the second tool, and this one seems almost too simple to be real. Vinegar. A tablespoon or 2 of ordinary vinegar diluted in water with a meal can meaningfully blunt the blood sugar spike from that meal. I know that sounds like something you'd read in a pop health magazine, but it's backed by serious research. A study published in Diabetes Research and Clinical Practice found that vinegar taken with food lowered both blood sugar and insulin levels significantly. A more recent meta-analysis confirmed the effect, showing that it works even in people who already have type 2 diabetes. The acetic acid in vinegar does 2 useful things. It slows the rate at which your stomach empties, so food trickles into your system more gradually. And it partly blocks the enzymes that break starch down into sugar. Put those together, and your blood sugar rises slower and flatter. But you have to be careful with this one. Never drink vinegar straight. It can erode your tooth enamel and irritate your esophagus. Stir 1 to 2 tablespoons into a full glass of water and drink it with your meal. And if you have kidney issues or take medications that already lower your blood sugar, talk to your doctor first. Vinegar is a helper, not a substitute for anything your doctor has prescribed. The third tool is water. Plain, simple water. When your blood sugar runs high, your kidneys go to work filtering some of that extra glucose out and sending it away in your urine. To do that job well, they need enough fluid. A study led by Dr. Ronan Roussel tracked a large group of adults over time and found that those who drank the least water had a higher risk of developing high blood sugar. It's likely related to a hormone called vasopressin, which rises when you're dehydrated and signals your liver to produce more sugar. Now, I want to be honest with you. This study is observational, so it doesn't prove cause and effect, but it fits perfectly with everything we know about how the kidneys handle sugar. So after a meal that's heavy on sugar, reach for a glass of water instead of soda or fruit juice. And a simple way to check yourself is the color of your urine. Pale yellow usually means you're doing fine. But if you have kidney disease or congestive heart failure, please follow your doctor's specific guidance on fluid intake. General advice to drink more water doesn't apply to everyone. So those are the 3 immediate tools for damage control in the moment. But here's where we shift gears. Because there's a deeper layer to this, the foundation that determines whether those spikes do real harm in the first place. Let's talk about giving your body a nightly break from food. For most of us, eating is spread across a long stretch of the day. A bite here in the early morning, something late in the evening, and a lot of hours in between where insulin never really gets to stand down. When insulin stays elevated all day, every day, your cells grow numb to it. That's insulin resistance. But when you give your body a real break, a longer stretch without food, you let insulin fall and your cells slowly regain their sensitivity. Your body also gets the chance to switch over and burn some of its stored fat for fuel. A study by Dr. Courtney Peterson and colleagues looked at men with prediabetes and had them eat all their food earlier in the day, within a shorter window. Their insulin sensitivity improved. Their pancreatic cells responded better. Their blood pressure came down, and their oxidative stress dropped, even though they didn't lose any weight. That tells us something important. The benefit came from the timing itself, from giving the body those hours of rest. For you, this doesn't mean anything extreme. Start gently. Try keeping your eating inside a 12-hour window. If you finish an earlier dinner, you don't eat again until breakfast. And favor eating earlier in the day rather than late at night. But here's the essential caution. If you take insulin or a sulfonylurea, or any medication that strongly lowers blood sugar, you must talk to your doctor before changing when you eat. Going too long without food on those medications can drop your blood sugar dangerously low. Now, let's talk about how you actually build a meal. Because the order and composition of what you eat matters almost as much as what you eat. Start with fiber, specifically the soluble viscous kind. Think oats, psyllium, beans, and fibrous vegetables. When this fiber meets liquid in your stomach, it forms a soft gel that slows everything down. Then build in protein, which has very little direct effect on blood sugar and helps keep you full. And include some healthy fat, like olive oil, nuts, or avocado, which further slow your stomach emptying. Here's a small change that can have a big impact. Eat your vegetables and fiber first, then your protein, and save the starchy foods for last. That simple sequence means the fiber and protein are already in place by the time the starch arrives. It's not about deprivation, it's about strategy. And here's something I want you to really hold on to. Maintaining muscle mass as you age isn't just about strength or mobility. Your muscle is the sponge that pulls sugar out of your blood. So protecting that muscle is one of the most important things you can do for your metabolism. The more muscle you keep, the better your body handles every meal for the rest of your life. Now, the third foundation habit, and this might be the most overlooked of all: sleep. When you don't get enough sleep, your cortisol, your main stress hormone, climbs. And cortisol pushes your blood sugar up. At the same time, the hormones that govern hunger swing against you. Ghrelin rises, driving appetite, while leptin falls, so you never quite feel full. You wake up a little more tired, a little more insulin resistant, and craving exactly the sweets and starches this whole conversation has been helping you manage. A study led by Dr. Josiane Broussard took healthy young adults and cut their sleep to about 4.5 hours a night for just 4 nights. In that short stretch, their whole body insulin sensitivity dropped by about 16%, and the sensitivity of their fat cells fell by roughly 30%. In just 4 nights of poor sleep, their bodies had aged, metabolically speaking. If a few bad nights can do that to healthy young people, imagine what months and years of thin, broken sleep do to a body that's already working harder after 60. Protect your sleep the way you'd protect any medicine, because in a real sense, it is one. Keep your bedtime and wake time steady. Make your room dark, cool, and quiet. Ease off screens in the last hour before bed. And give yourself a calm, wind-down routine, something that tells your body the day is done. Here's the truth that ties all 6 of these together. They aren't scattered tricks. They work as one system. Movement opens your muscles. Vinegar and water soften the peaks. Meal timing and meal building rebuild your foundation. And sleep is the ground all of it stands on. Pull one out and the others wobble. Put them together and they reinforce each other day after day. So here's where to start. The next time you finish a meal you know was heavy on sugar, don't sit down. Take a gentle 10-minute walk within the half hour. With a starchy meal, consider stirring a tablespoon of vinegar into a glass of water. And eat your vegetables and protein before your starches. Pick one foundation habit to change this week. Either set a steady bedtime or pull your eating into roughly a 12-hour window by finishing dinner earlier. Then, at your next visit, ask your doctor, with the medications I'm on, is walking after meals or shortening my eating window safe and right for me? And ask them to check your HbA1c while you're there. You cannot erase the sugar you've already eaten. There's no trick, no drink, no detox that undoes it. But that was never the point. What you can control, and control powerfully, is how much harm that sugar is allowed to do. That's not a life of restriction. That's you holding the wheel. And that changes everything.